Have you ever watched someone be right about everything, in real time, on the record, years before the record caught up, and receive no credit for any of it until the thing they predicted was already happening to everyone? You are about to. Cher walked onto every stage she was given between 2016 and 2026 and said, in the flat register of someone who has been watching powerful men perform for 60 years and has developed the specific economy of observation that comes from that duration, the things that the people with press credentials and panel seats and chyrons beneath their names would not say. She said them in tweets. She said them in interviews. She said them in the specific capital letter typography of someone who has not yet learned to perform restraint on social media and has decided she does not want to. And she was right, every time. Before the networks, before the polls, before the political analysts with the models and the margins. The first time was July 18, 2016. Day 2 of the Republican National Convention. Melania Trump had delivered her speech. The networks were discussing its emotional resonance. Twitter was still processing the optics. And Cher posted, parts of Melania Trump's speech were taken word for word from Michelle Obama's 2008 Democratic Convention address. She said it without qualification. She said it as a fact, with the flat confidence of someone who had watched both speeches and done the arithmetic that the networks had not yet done. The next morning, every network that had spent the previous evening analyzing Melania's delivery was running the side-by-side comparison. The story that dominated Day 3 of the Republican National Convention had been broken, first, in the capital letter shorthand of a 70-year-old pop star who went to bed before the coverage ended and posted the finding from her phone. Trump's team issued a statement saying the similarities were unintentional. Cher did not post again about it. She did not need to. The infrastructure of being first was already in the record. The second time was July 3, 2017, 1 year into the first term. The cameras had been cataloging what they described as a cold body language between the president and the first lady. The hand rejections, the walking gaps, the specific physical distance that the tabloids were turning into a feature genre. Cher posted, not to be mean, but Melania Trump always appears sad and angry, as if she has lost a close friend. They never smile or share glances on television. I feel bad. I hope she gets to take her son and return to New York soon. She said it without a leaked voicemail, without a live confrontation, without a fabricated dramatic moment. She said it the way you say something you have been watching long enough to name, in the specific register of an observation that is both compassionate and precise, that extends concern rather than contempt toward the person in the frame, and that says the thing that half the country had been thinking without a platform large enough to say it from. The post was read by millions. Melania did not return a statement. Trump did not post about it. The silence was the response, and Cher moved on. The third time was on camera. An interview, the specific format in which a question is asked in the expectation of a rehearsed answer, and the subject provides an unrehearsed one instead. She said Trump was the most dangerous president she had seen in the 14 presidencies of her conscious lifetime. She said he was the best liar she had ever witnessed. She said, in the flat voice of someone reading a finding she had arrived at before the question was finished, that he doesn't even like Americans. The interviewer paused. The room was quiet. She said, I've been watching powerful men perform for my entire life. She said, I know the difference between a performance for people and a performance about people. She said, this is the second one. She did not describe a policy. She did not cite a document. She described the infrastructure of a performance, the specific clinical distinction between a man who performs for an audience and a man who performs at one. And she placed it in a television interview in the specific flat register of someone who is done performing the politeness of not saying the thing she has been watching for long enough to name. The networks reported the interview as a celebrity opinion. They filed it in the entertainment vertical. They placed it in the Friday afternoon slot where things go when they are considered too opinionated to place beside the political coverage and too famous to ignore entirely. 4 years later, the finding she had placed in that interview, the best liar she had ever seen, the most dangerous president in 14 presidencies, a man who does not even like the Americans he performs for, had been replicated in more formal language by every major political analyst, foreign policy scholar, and institutional historian who spent 2025 documenting what the second term had produced, not because Cher had influenced their findings, because they had arrived from different directions and with different tools at the same destination she had reached from a television interview couch in the Friday afternoon slot. There was no leaked voicemail, no live confrontation, no fabricated moment in which the document was placed on the desk and the room went silent and the cameras caught the expression that told the story. The story does not require any of those things. The story is a woman with a phone and 60 years of watching powerful men perform, who saw the infrastructure of the performance before the critics wrote the review and posted it in capital letters, and was right about the speech, about the marriage, about the danger, about the liar, about the man who does not like the people he performs for, before any of it was considered safe or credible or appropriate to say in the rooms where those words were eventually said. That is not a story about Cher. It is a story about what happens when the person who says the true thing first is not the person anyone expected to say it, and about how long it takes for the record to catch up to the observation, and what the gap between the observation and the record says about the rooms that decided, in real time, what was and was not appropriate to name. Trump posted about Cher 7 times across the second term. He called her washed up, talentless, a has-been, a radical left puppet, and a woman nobody listens to anymore. He said it about a woman who had called the plagiarized speech before the networks, named the marriage before the tabloids made it a genre, and described the presidency before the historians had assembled their footnotes. He said it from the residence. He said it 7 times, without addressing the speech comparison, without addressing the sadness observation, without addressing the most dangerous president or the best liar or the man who does not like the Americans he performs for. The posts are in the record. The predictions are in the record. And a 78-year-old woman in capital letters who went to bed before the coverage ended on July 18, 2016 and woke up already correct is in the record, without a voicemail, without a confrontation, without a fabricated moment, because the documented record is already the confrontation. After everything you just heard, ask yourself one thing. What else has been hiding behind the noise? Subscribe and turn on notifications, because this story isn't over. It's just getting started.